Everyone is a hero in his story. This is why mankind has always been addicted to stories and fictions. People dream of becoming a somebody, someone who can do amazing feats, survive any adversity, save the day, and be praised for doing it. Yet people want their heroes to be perfect. They want their heroes to always win. But what if a hero has weaknesses? What if the hero is imperfect? Will people still want that hero? Will that hero still entertain and inspire? In this mini-documentary on forgotten gems, let us explore a once famous literary hero who redefined what it means to be a relatable protagonist. He told the world that fictional heroes didn't need to be perfect, that heroes were just people like you and me. A character by the name of Elric of Melnibone. Before Elric, fictional heroes were typical. From Hercules and Thor to Conan the Barbarian and Superman, heroes back then were near perfect and flawless. Sure, they did have their weaknesses, from Thor's overconfidence, Hercules' tragedy, and Superman's kryptonite. But these were minor, superficial, and didn't really affect the character's physicality or morality. Things would change in 1961 when Michael Moorcock published the first Elric of Melnibone story, entitled The Dreaming City. He would later develop the character and publish further stories. At first glance, Moorcock's stories seem to be your typical fantasy or swords and sandals story, about a warrior king who is good with a sword and can do magic as well. Elric of Melnibone looked to be an all-powerful and invincible protagonist, but he was different. Moorcock gave Elric a debilitating disease known as albinism. Albinism is a real disease where a person had difficulty producing melanin, which results to white skin and hair, red eyes, and a poor immune system. Albino characters were not uncommon during Moorcock's time, but they were largely bad guys. These included Griffin, the titular character of H.G. Wells's novel The Invisible Man, and Monsieur Zenith, a gentleman thief and supervillain of the detective Sexton Blake. Elric of Melnibone suffers from this disease. Even though he is an emperor, even though he is a well-trained and very skilled melee fighter, even if he is a powerful sorcerer who can summon gods to his aid, Elric is still a weak person who is constantly in danger of being killed by his disease. This is why, every day, Elric is highly dependent on herbs and potions to be able to fight or even function. This is why, in every battle, he had to rely on his friends and followers. This is why, sometimes, when in the direst of needs and when faced with far more powerful foes, Elric is forced to use destructive and evil weapons, even if he didn't want to, like the supernatural sword Stormbringer, which feeds on the souls of intelligent beings. This therefore created unique plot points and character development that made Elric so interesting. As a physically weak person, Elric depended on his cunning and judgment to win battles. He had to develop his social skills in order to win allies. And the stress of his disease, and being a king in particular, made Elric a philosophical character, a man torn between being a benevolent ruler or a strict totalitarian, a king who wanted to be good but forced to make evil decisions, like torture, for the betterment of his kingdom. Elric of Melnibone thus became an influential and relatable character. He became a hero that anyone could get into, from those suffering from debilitating diseases, those going through mental distresses, the leaders and politicians of the world, to the geeks who love fantasy and superhero stories. He may be unknown today, but Elric of Melnibone left a big impact in the history of fiction. Great writers like Chris Robertson and Alan Moore wrote Elric stories, and characters like the Targaryens from Game of Thrones and Geralt of Rivia were heavily inspired by the fantasy character. Of all the forgotten fantasy heroes, none were as powerful and inspirational as Michael Moorcock's Elric of Melnibone. For other videos about influential fantasy characters, check out our video on Jack Horner by Bill Willingham. If you like the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.